Hello fellow rangers, welcome back to another kit build video. Today we are here once again with our Hawker Tempest Mark 5. As you can see, she is completely finished, as we did in episode 2 of the Tempest build. So yes, pretty much regarding what's with this aircraft, I've been able to find out it's a lot of conflicting information regarding this Tempest. There's different information coming from different sources, and I don't know which one to go with. So at the moment, I'm waiting on a person in the Hawker Tempest and Typhoon Facebook group to get back in touch with me regarding our aircraft, which is Sierra November 228. In the meantime, if you know any information about this aircraft, the link to the channel email will be in the description below. If you know any information about this particular Tempest, yes, I know there's one or two little bits, but then some of it conflicts with itself as well, with the information. So rather than get it wrong, I'd rather wait a little bit and get it right. And as soon as I know this information, there will be a video on that. But for now, we will do a brief history on the Hawker Tempest, and then I will put some of the photos I've managed to find of our aircraft during the war, and then we will move on to what we normally do, which is, of course, models for heroes, and then what build we are doing next. So let's get on with the information on the Hawker Tempest.
An aircraft which has to be considered one of the finest aeroplanes of the Second World War, the Hawker Tempest V could trace its design lineage back to the Hurricane fighters, which proved so decisive during the Battle of Britain only 2 years earlier, but would represent the absolute zenith of piston-engined fighter design. Indeed, when accomplished designer Sidney Cam was looking to produce his Super Hurricane replacement for the aviation savior of the Battle of Britain, the aircraft he surely had in mind was the Tempest V. As it was, the Tempest is often confused with its predecessor in Royal Air Force service, the Typhoon, even though the two are very different aeroplanes. The original fighter replacement for the Hawker Hurricane was the Typhoon, an aircraft which attempted to combine the most powerful piston engine available at the time with a small, yet strong and heavily armed airframe. Although intended as an interceptor fighter, it became apparent during development that the new aircraft would not be able to fulfill this role, as the thickness of the wing was not conducive to high performance at high altitude. In fact, the Typhoon would endure quite a troubled development and service introduction, to the point where cancellation of the program was seriously considered at one time. Nevertheless, the Typhoon would eventually go on to find its aviation niche as a hard-hitting ground attack aircraft, and one which would come into its own during the time of the Allied invasion of Normandy. Aware that their Typhoon had great potential but was in need of improvement, the Hawker design team started work on a new fighter project, one which incorporated many of the same philosophies as Typhoon, but also several significant modifications. Indeed, the new aircraft was initially referred to as the Typhoon Mark II, but this was changed to Tempest as the prototype aircraft's first flight approached. Although this was still a big aeroplane for a single-engined fighter, its airframe was light and it would be powered by the massively powerful 24-cylinder Napier Sabre engine, a power plant which would give the new fighter spectacular performance. Making its first flight on the 2nd of September 1942, the new Hawker Tempest featured a newly designed laminar flow wing, which was much thinner than the wing used on its predecessor and allowed the new fighter to slip through the air at incredible speed. At first glance, the Typhoon and Tempest do share many similarities. However, if you know where to look, it is not difficult to tell them apart. Without doubt, the wing is the most obvious distinguishing feature, as not only is this thinner than the one used on the Typhoon, it is also a completely different shape. With a straighter leading edge and more elliptical trailing edge, the Tempest's wing was designed for speed, even though it could still be used effectively in a ground attack role. Other Tempest design differences include a slightly longer nose and a tail section which appears to be much larger, with a more generous vertical stabilizer which features a pronounced dorsal fillet. During the prototype aircraft's maiden flight, it posted an impressive top speed of 477 miles per hour in level flight, impressing both the design team and the watching Air Ministry. The Hawker Tempest V entered Royal Air Force service in early 1944, with the first two squadrons to receive the type having both previously operated the Typhoon. It was thought that managing the incredible power generated by the Tempest's engine could pose problems for pilots converting from smaller aircraft types, and that former Typhoon units would be best placed to negotiate its squadron introduction. In advance of the D-Day landings, Tempests were being used in a similar ground attack role to the one being flown so effectively by Typhoon squadrons. However, should it be required to make the shift to air combat operations mid-mission, the Tempest was much more suited to this task. Possessing significantly greater range than the Typhoon, Tempests could loiter in the combat zone for longer periods, allowing offensive strikes deeper into occupied Europe, or allowing pilots to wait patiently for the Luftwaffe to come up and fight, where they could show them what their new fighter could really do. As the fastest Allied fighter at low and medium altitudes, Tempest squadrons were held back for home defense duties in the weeks which followed the successful D-Day landings, due to the onslaught of a sinister new weapon, the V-1 Doodlebug pulsed jet flying bomb. The Tempest proved to be an excellent V-1 killer, using the speed of the fighter, effectiveness of its guns and bravery of its pilots to destroy large numbers of these terrifying weapons before they could wreak their havoc on British towns and cities. Britain's most effective force against these indiscriminate weapons, hundreds of Doodlebugs were shot down by the RAF's Hawker Tempest V squadrons, with squadron leader Joseph Berry proving to be the most proficient at this work, with no fewer than 61 V-1 kills to his name. With the V-1 threat diminishing, the RAF's Tempest V squadrons were free to embark on aggressive seek and destroy missions into occupied Europe, using the speed, range and firepower of their latest fighter to great effect. Looking for potential V-1 launch sites and increasingly, the new German jet fighters which had started operating against the Allied air forces, the Tempest began to show that it was undoubtedly one of the most capable fighting aeroplanes in the world. Indeed, it has been reported that the aggressively flown Tempest was the Allied aircraft Messerschmitt Me-262 jet pilots most feared during those early days of jet-powered operations, particularly if they were caught during the landing and taking off phases of flight, when their jets were much more vulnerable. There is no doubt that the Hawker Tempest V was a real brute of an aeroplane, fast, heavily armed and possessing performance which could better any fighter the Luftwaffe had in service, perhaps with the exception of the Me-262 at full speed. Pilots who had experience flying both the Tempest V and its predecessor, the Typhoon, described the difference as being like night and day. They actually said that it was like comparing a cart horse with a race horse. Although this seems a little harsh, as they flew the aircraft in combat, we should certainly bow to their judgment. Although appearing relatively late in World War II, the Tempest V still takes its place as one of the most effective piston-engined fighters of the Second World War and was perhaps the Super Hurricane designer Sidney Cam had always envisaged developing.
Right, fellow Rangers, here are some photos that I've managed to find of our aircraft during the time of trying to find as much information on our Tempest as possible. Right, fellow Rangers, that is it for the Tempest. Essentially what I will be doing is, once we get any more information on our aircraft, which is SN228, I will make a video letting everyone know about that. But essentially, unless one of you, my fellow Rangers, know how to get the records, I can't do anything more. And rather than hold up and wait for it forever. I'd rather just get on. I've got loads of kits in my stash that I want to get on with, and being an aircraft enthusiast, I like to keep going. So that is it for our Hawker Tempest. That's one thing I will say. Right, it is the time for Models for Heroes. Yes, Models for Heroes. Whose I've been given official permission from the charity to use their logo in the videos and to discuss about them as well. They help British veterans, men and women, in the armed forces who suffer with mental or such problems such as PTSD and other issues through the aid of model kits. And they've helped out God knows how many veterans at the moment, and essentially it is a very good cause. I personally love the idea because without those people we wouldn't have the freedom to do what we want to do. It's especially in Britain. So, and another reason why I like this charity quite a lot is because there's 3 ways of supporting them. Of course, financially. And then one thing I like is, let's say for example, yes I know we've just finished it, but let's say for example you got a kit like this. You know you're never going to make it. You can donate that kit to them, and then a veteran can build it. Someone will still get pleasure out of building it, because essentially when you're talking about stuff you don't really want to talk about, but you're building something like this, it helps them to speak about it, because you're focusing on building something where you're talking to someone at the same time, and if it helps someone out, I'm going to happily, especially veterans who fought for our freedom, I'm all up for that. Another way, third way you can support them, which this is what I'm doing, is because I'm not part of the Airfix Club. If you are part of the Airfix Club, you already know about this, but if you're not, on every, even quite old Airfix kits, you still have this. It's the flying arrows tokens. If you pretty much build up enough of them, get enough of them, you can redeem and get a free model kit from them. Or, in my case, you can use them to donate to Models for Heroes, and then they can redeem them and go from there. I do quite like that idea. So, as you know, we just finished the Tempest. So it's that moment of the history video. I normally go, well, right, out of my collection of model kits, what kit has my father has chosen for me to do next? Right, this is the aircraft my father has chosen for me to do next. It's the Royal Aircraft Factory SE5A. Yes, it is this aircraft. So, if you have liked today's video, please put a like on it, as that would be very much appreciated. Also, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing, as that would also be a big massive help towards the channel. Also, thank you very much for watching, fellow Rangers. I hope you all take care, keep doing what you enjoy doing, and this is Lone Ranger, signing out.